All right, these are the answers to the product rule worksheet. And with the product rule, what you want to do first is always identify what are the two functions that are multiplying together. And then when you do the derivative, you're going to take the derivative of the first one. So derivative of negative x cubed is negative 3x squared. Leave the second function as is, then plus. Now leave the first function as is times the derivative of the second, which would be 12x cubed. Derivative of negative 2 is 0. Now obviously there's algebra that could be done if you wanted to distribute and combine. If this is multiple choice, maybe you have to do that. If it's free response, then you are fine right there. You've done the derivative, no need to keep going. So the algebra piece of this can be something you do on your own if you'd like, but it doesn't have to be for right now. So for this one, here's our two functions, x squared times this. Derivative of x squared is 2x. Leave this one alone. Plus, now leave x squared alone, times the derivative of this, which is negative 6x. Okay. Here's our two things multiplying together here. So our derivative would be the derivative of the first, negative 8x cubed. Leave this one alone. Plus, now leave the first one alone, times the derivative of the second, which is negative 4x. For this one, here's our two. So the derivative of the first is 8x cubed times this one as is, plus, now leave this one alone, times the derivative of the second, which is 2x. So you start feeling comfortable with this, start to feel like this is a pretty decent flow. For this one here, these are the two that are multiplying. The derivative of the first is 25x to the fourth. Leave this one alone. Plus, now leave the first one alone, times the derivative of this, which is a negative 10x to the fourth. Here's our two multiplying together on this one. So the derivative would be negative 3x to the negative fourth. Leave this alone. Plus, now leave this one alone, times negative 12x squared. For number 7, they're just a little longer, but it's the same idea. Got two things. I'm going to take the derivative of the first, which is negative 8x cubed plus 10x times this one as is, plus, leave the first one alone, times the derivative of the second. And then this one here, the last one on this front page, take the derivative of the first, 4x cubed, times this one as is, and then plus, now leave this one alone, times negative 20x to the fourth plus 20x to the third. Again, you can multiply this all out, combine like terms, do all that algebra if you'd like, but this is your derivative. All of these are good derivatives for those. Okay. For number 9, derivative of the first would be 20x cubed minus 6x. Leave this one alone. Plus, now leave the first one alone, times negative 10x for that. Okay. For this one here, you may want to rewrite this as x to the 2/5 when you go to do its derivative. That'll make life a little bit simpler for you. So when we do this derivative, it will be derivative of the first, negative 20x, minus 7 times 2/5, so minus 14/5 x to the, subtract 1 from there, you'll get negative 3/5. Okay, so that's the derivative of that one, times this one as is. Plus, now leave the first one alone, so 7x to the 2/5 plus 9 times the derivative of the second, which is 6x squared. Okay. For this one here, dy dx equals negative 6x to the negative 3. Leave this one alone. Plus, now leave this one alone, times 20x to the fourth plus 18x squared. 12 dy dx is derivative negative 24x cubed minus 24x to the negative fifth. Leave this one alone. Plus, now leave this one alone, times derivative 24x cubed. All right. Then you got our last one here. Derivative would be negative 28x to the third plus 10 times 2/5, that's 20/5, which is 4x to the negative 3/5. Leave the second function alone, plus leave the first function alone, times derivative of the second. Okay. For 14, it says classmate says that if it has two functions that are multiplying, you want to take the derivative, it would just be the derivative of the first times derivative of the second. Okay. Can we show something that's wrong there? So, I mean, basically what you could do is say, let's say we kind of broke something up. We had like x squared times x to the third, and we were going to take the derivative. Now, off to the side, we know that that's x to the fifth, and if we take the derivative of that, we should get 5x to the fourth. Okay? Now, if we do their idea of just take the derivative of the first times derivative of the second, we're going to get 6x to the third, and that's not 5x to the fourth, right? So that didn't work. But if we do the product rule, if we take derivative of the first times second as is, plus first function times derivative of the second, then what I'm going to get is 2x to the fourth plus 3x to the fourth, which is 5x to the fourth. Same answer. All right, so the product rule works, but this derivative doesn't. And that's the one thing you're going to have to make sure is out of your mind, because that's the one thing people will do in a moment of confusion, is they'll just do derivative instead of using the product rule.